Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 3 of Inspired by Chaos Pod. I'm Sophie.
I'm Jordan.
And our episode today is The Power of Praise, the Magic of Positive Reinforcement in Special Education. If you haven't watched our other 2 episodes, we do a zone check-in on every episode. And if you don't know what a zone check-in is, go back to episode 1 and we will explain all of that for you. So Jordan, what zone are you in today? We have a lot to catch you guys up on. Hence the cough.
Yeah.
Since the last episode that we recorded.
Yeah. I'm in the green zone today.
Okay.
I definitely would have said, I think blue if you asked me Friday or even Saturday.
Or any day before that for the last 14 days.
Yeah. Yeah. Or that. But right now, okay.
We'll just throw it out there.
Yeah. Here's what happened. So on the last episode, we chatted about me just feeling off. Like I just felt off, I think, during
You were like, I'm a little nauseous. I think it's from anxiety. I'm not sure what it is, but you said you were feeling great that day.
Mm-hmm.
So we shared lunch and a tea and spent a lot of time together.
Yeah. And then I was off all week because I had the virus. The virus we all know of.
Yep. The big virus.
Yeah. Yeah. So nobody likes to be off for 5 days at the beginning of a school year.
2.
But that was me. I still
There's some residual.
Yeah.
There's some residual
stuff that hangs out, but I feel good. I feel good. This week was kind of exhausting. I was at work this past week.
Yes. Happy to have her back.
And it was an exhausting week. But right now, after resting yesterday, I feel green. I feel good.
Good. I'm glad you're in the green zone now. It was a rough week since we last recorded. It's been okay. Nothing has happened or anything. I think just getting into routine is finally hitting me that, oh my gosh, I have to go to work every day and actually have some kind of routine. But I'm glad you're back in the green zone. I feel like I'm blue-green. I feel like I'm super tired. I'm happy to be doing this. I'm happy to be back doing this. Definitely, this is what makes me happy. But I'm exhausted. I feel like I'm already behind on schoolwork a little bit, like university work. I feel like we're getting into that mode now where we're figuring out that certain things need to change within our classroom. So there's a lot of work that has to be done. But I feel excited about it. I feel optimistic. I feel great about the group we have this year. So overall, I'm feeling pretty good. And I'm excited for fall. I'm one of those people that I'm the weather's getting a little bit chillier and I'm just ready. I'm ready to make the transition of seasons, right?
I love sweater weather.
Me too.
Yeah,
sweater weather. We'll talk about that a little bit later. It's been a journey, but everyone will have their merch sweaters for fall.
Yeah.
Mark our words. They will have their merch sweaters for fall. Okay. So for today, we wanted to do something a little bit different. We know the first episode was a lot about getting to know us. And last episode, you got a taste of what the podcast really is. But to get to know us a little bit more, we're going to play a little this or that game so you can get to know Jordan and I. And I don't think Jordan has seen these yet.
No.
Or not fully anyways.
No. Every once in a while, Sophie will be like, hey, did you look at the plan for the podcast? And I'm like, no.
But I kind of like it that way sometimes. I like to catch you off guard. And I feel like we can throw you anything and you're good. You'll just chat about it.
I'll just talk. I do have input on what we're talking about.
For
she
sure.
She just does the planning of it.
And we do our debriefs on the way down. We get in the car, we get our Timmies, and we chat about the things we want to talk about. But some things I'm like, let's hold our thought on that and let's do it on the podcast.
Yeah.
Especially our first impressions of each other. If you haven't watched that on episode 1, that's a good one. That's really funny.
Yeah.
All right. So our first this or that, tea or coffee? Tea or coffee?
Am I going first on everything?
You're going to go first and then I'll follow up.
Okay. Tea. I cannot stand coffee.
You don't even like the smell of it.
Yeah. There's been times where obviously love us our Timmies. But there's been times where the teas have turned out to be coffee and I will go to take a sip and I can smell it. And I'm like, ugh, I am not a coffee girl.
Can't stand it.
Don't like coffee in food. Don't like coffee in any kind of drink. I am not a coffee girl.
She's a tea girl through and through.
Yeah.
I, for one, am a caffeine girl. So I have an extra large tea in the morning and a large coffee in the afternoon. And a tea before bed. So anything that has caffeine. I've been into the Diet Cokes recently too, and that never used to be a thing. Right? Now I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I'm barely eating, just living off caffeine these days.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm tea and coffee. Yeah, I don't know. I can't make my mind up on that. I go back and forth all day.
Both.
Tim's or Starbucks? Because you do like a little frappuccino action.
Only the double chocolate frap that has zero coffee.
No coffee.
I'm a Tim's girl, I think. I do as a special treat.
Yeah.
Like Starbucks because I like their double chocolate frap. I think that's what it's called, or chocolate chip or something frap.
Yeah.
And I like their white hot chocolate.
Yes, so that's right.
Yeah, those are like my like treat myself type of thing.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like my tea, Tim's just knows how I like my tea.
For tea, yes. It's even better than like tea at home because I love a good tea from home or whatever, but like something tastes different.
Yeah. So I'd say Tim's over Starbucks. What about you?
I feel like I love Starbucks coffee, but Tim's tea. I like Starbucks really, you just can't go wrong with the coffee. It's so good. And they have all the flavors and everything that I like. And my brother-in-law's a barista, so he tells me all the good stuff to get from there. So I feel like, again, I'm really bad at this game. I'm this and that, not this or that.
For everything.
Tea and coffee, Tim's and Starbucks. One thing I actually love about Jordan is she will shamelessly order a hot chocolate anywhere you go, even if it's July. Like we'll go to a coffee shop and I'm like, oh, I'll get like a latte. And she's like, do you have hot chocolate? Sorry, I'm 7 years old.
I'm pretty sure I say that every time we go to.
Like, there's a coffee shop downstairs from the studio. And I always get a coffee either before or after. And she's always like, can I get my hot chocolate?
Yeah.
I just think it's so funny.
Yeah. Or we would go like do our planning in the summer and we would go, I think I did it at the
July.
spa. Did I get a hot chocolate at the spa?
Oh, I think you did.
I did in the morning.
Yeah. We went to the spa and I'm like, get my little cappuccino. And she's like, do you guys have hot chocolate?
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure
so shameless.
Because I'm a child. Can I have a hot chocolate, please?
No, I love it. It's the best. Okay. This one is very interesting. Morning bus or late bus? So for those of you who don't know, we bus our students in from wherever they need to come from to our program. And you are either starting at 7 o'clock in the morning and working until 2:40. So you leave as soon as the kids leave, or you start at 8 o'clock and then you're on an hour bus after school. So what do you prefer?
It's so funny because last year I was so set. Actually, 2 years ago was when I started liking the morning bus.
You took over mine because I had always done the morning.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to wake up that early anymore.
Yeah. And then it kind of just like 2 years ago, we just kind of like flowed into I was on the morning, you were in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And then last year, I kind of opted to be on the morning, but wanted to have like the freedom to move around. And
the flexibility is nice.
That didn't happen for me. And I found it difficult. But I also think that was because our bus last year was earlier than it was the year before.
Yeah.
So getting 3 kids up and going and being at the school that early
that's
was
a huge factor.
Yeah. It started to get really difficult and not ever having wiggle room to be on the afternoon because last year Sophie and I weren't like bus partners. So it just wasn't as easy to swap. So I started to get like frustrated because I was never a time, like if my kids were having a really rough time, it was not like I could be like, this week, can we swap? And I'll do the later bus type of thing, the afternoon bus. And then this year we're back together.
Because we're constantly communicating. So if she's running late, I can throw myself together. If like her daughter's not going to daycare, I can be like, okay, let me get my stuff together, get there and do that bus. It's just easier to have that flexibility because we're constantly communicating. Yeah. So.
And I think I prefer the morning, but yes, there's times where if the kids are just giving me a hard time in the morning, like it's like, I just wish like I had an extra little bit of time.
Right.
So I think we kind of like chatted about Mondays, me doing the late bus this year. Yeah. Mondays and Wednesdays. And that's only because after a weekend, I think maybe that'll be an easier transition for the kids.
And I have a lecture.
Yes.
After work. So it works out really well.
Yeah. You need to be out earlier on the Monday. And then Tuesday nights now, my 12-year-old has basketball practice from 8 to 10 p.m.
That is so late for a kid's practice, to be honest.
So late. So then we figured Wednesday morning, I'll do the late bus again. Yeah. So I'll do 2 late and Sophie will do 3 late buses. Yeah. And then whatever. But yes, I prefer the morning when my are great.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like I always preface this conversation with, I have no children, so I will be the most flexible one because I feel like I'm one of the only ones that doesn't have kids. So I'm like, just let me know because it's only me. I have to get ready. I don't have to throw anybody else together. So I feel like for me, I like the afternoon bus right now because I can sleep in. And I kind of like zen out on the bus after we drop all the kids. The like ride back, I like do my crocheting or sometimes I'll pull up some schoolwork or whatever. I am a morning person, but that is darn early.
Oh yeah.
That morning bus.
Yeah, 7 o'clock is.
I'm flexible, but I think I prefer the afternoon bus, which works out why we're partners. I think it works very well.
Yeah.
All right. This one controversial because it bothers me. Are you an Apple or a Samsung girl?
Okay.
Triggered.
I, for my phone, prefer Samsung.
So now I'm a WhatsApp girly because of that.
Yeah. I don't know. I just found my phone easier with Samsung. I used to be Apple forever ago. And then when I first switched to Samsung, I was like, oh my gosh, there's just so much more. Sorry, Apple. I don't know. But then I love my MacBook Pro. So
right.
So I feel like I'm a little bit of both because
You're this and that.
Yeah, there's
this and that.
Yeah. I there's some things that I love about Apple. And then, but phone for me, I just find it easier with my Samsung.
Yeah.
What about you?
I feel like I just get stuck on something. I get comfortable with something. And so everything has been Apple for me. I have my like MacBook. I have my whatever. I had an iPad, iPhone, whatever. Just because I feel like user friendly for me. I know how to use it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I just roll with it. So yeah. But yeah, that's why we had to get WhatsApp because like the green bubbles and iMessage just trigger me. I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. So now we're on WhatsApp all the time. Yeah. Okay, for lunch, do you like to sit in the lunchroom and chat or do you like to go eat in your car or go out or like disassociate for a bit?
I'm this and that for that, I think, too. Mm-hmm. Like we've created in our kitchen, like attached to our classroom, a pretty like calm space for staff to
it's cute.
Yeah, be able to just kind of go. We can even shut off the lights in there. We have
little lamps.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To kind of just bring ourselves down a little bit. And I've really, really been loving that. But I am social, so I haven't really ventured out into the staff room this year yet.
Yeah.
But I think there's just been so much going on that I've just needed that
space,
zen time.
Yeah.
But I am social. So there are times where I love going to the staff room and chatting with everybody.
Yeah, it's a good way to connect because we don't see a lot of the staff during the day.
Yeah.
I have to leave. Like if I have homework, I will stay and I will sit and I will work. But like if I have my AirPods in, like I don't want to be chatted to. I feel like I get so overstimulated in the classroom that when I get my lunch or my break, I'm like, adios, I'm out of here. I'll literally like eat in my car. I'll go for a drive. I just feel like I need to like, Jordan can break in the classroom sometimes. She'll be like, I'm just going to take my break like over here. And I'm like, how are you not losing it?
It's actually really bad because my break's usually me at the back Velcroing.
Right? Like my 10-minute break, I have to like disconnect from the classroom, leave, take a walk, take a breather, and like actually like just sometimes just stare into the void and like take 10 minutes to like reground myself before I go back in. So I definitely am like, bye, I need to be out for my lunch for sure. Yeah. Sweet or salty snacks?
Both. I'm this and that. I love a good like salty popcorn.
Yes.
With like chocolate thrown into it.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like my favorite movie. Actually, no. Nachos are my favorite movie thing too. Yeah. But I do love like if I'm having like a bowl of chips, like some chocolate on the
right? I like to finish my night with something sweet usually, but I love salty snacks. Like that's my go-to, like chips, popcorn, like that kind of thing. I can like munch on that forever.
Yep.
Sweet stuff, I can overdo it. And I get like sweeted out, sugared out. I don't like that. So I feel like definitely salty for me. Okay, the last one's interesting. If you were to get a gift card from a student, would you prefer to get a Teachers Pay Teachers gift card or an Amazon gift card?
Oh, gosh.
And I have a very strong answer for this. So I'm interested what you're going to say.
So I think my answer is going to be funny-ish.
If it's the same as mine, I'm going to laugh really hard.
I think it'll be funny. I would prefer a Amazon gift card. Here's why.
Okay.
Because if I want something from Teachers Pay Teachers,
You're just going to make it?
I'm just going to make it.
I feel like nobody does anything to my standard. If I am going to go on Teachers Pay Teachers, I'm going to be like, no, I'll just make it myself.
Yeah.
Which is exactly why we've kind of plugged it before, but we are starting a Teachers Pay Teachers and we have like a pretty hefty amount of stuff going into there right now.
Yeah.
And it's so aesthetically pleasing.
Oh, yeah.
But that was exactly my answer.
That's
it was
perfect.
Amazon because I could use it for the classroom or for myself.
Yeah.
And because I will not be purchasing on Teachers Pay Teachers because I'll just make it.
No, everything we've done this year
That's
has
funny.
been from
We've
us.
just made it.
We've made everything.
And then everyone's like, where'd you get that? And we're like, well.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's
Here's the
literally
link.
been happening. People are coming up being like, love that. Can I have it? I'm like, it's going to have our Teachers Pay Teachers logo on it.
It is. And you're lucky that we're not charging you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Because we will start doing that.
Yeah.
But right now, if you're a friend, I'd reach out now. So today's topic is reinforcement, which is a very broad term, but we're going to kind of try and break it down the best that we can and how we do reinforcement in our classroom. So basically, what would you say, or I can say like my definition, what is like reinforcement? Like what is it in our classroom and just in general?
I think overall the biggest piece would be us making sure the kids are being reinforced for the things that they're doing.
Yeah, like proving the likelihood whether they like do that behavior again or whether they like discontinue that behavior.
Mhm.
And obviously each kid is working on an independent goal and what that looks like for them. And we need to figure out how to best reinforce them to make sure that that positive behavior keeps happening or that negative behavior discontinues, basically. So one of the things we were chatting about on the way down here, and I am not an expert on this whatsoever, but because I am getting my degree in special education right now, we talked a little bit about positive versus negative reinforcement. And for the most part, we use positive reinforcement in special education, but negative reinforcement has like this connotation around it that people think it's like punishment or consequence. And that's not technically what it is. When we do positive reinforcement, it's kind of like what we do where it's like giving the child an iPad if they finish all of their work or something, right? Like they're like getting something out of
Completing
working
a task or doing what they're supposed to do.
right? Which is kind of what we do with like our token boards and stuff. And we'll break down all of that stuff for you. But negative reinforcement isn't like reprimanding them. Negative reinforcement is like removing something. So for example, one of the examples that I was given is like taking away a child's chores because they kept their room clean all week. So it's still a reinforcement to reinforce that positive behavior. It's not reprimanding them. It's not actually negative. It's just removing something that, you know, they might not have wanted to do, which is an interesting way to look at it.
So would that be like, let's say one of our kids has 5 folders.
Yeah.
And they whipped through and focused and did so well on 4 of their folders.
Yeah.
And maybe one of us is like, you know what? You did amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And so it still reinforces that behavior. And again, not an expert on this, still kind of like learning it, but it is interesting because I always had this like idea that negative reinforcement was like, you're not getting this because blah, 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 whatever.
Right.
And it doesn't always have to be that way. It's just the removal of something. It could be the removal of something that, you know, they didn't maybe want to do, something that they, you know, no longer have to do because they worked so hard.
Right.
One of the things that is very interesting as an educator is that not all of the reinforcement is within our control, unfortunately. We can set up all of these reinforcement systems and reinforce the heck out of these positive things. But there are moments, and we have had them, where behavior is reinforced while we are trying to not reinforce that behavior.
Yeah.
Because it's not always giving them a reward. Like it's not somebody else coming in and giving them a reward. For example, a student is like shouting out in class, trying to like, you know, make a scene, and the educators are ignoring that. They're trying to not reinforce that behavior, but everybody else in the class is laughing. That behavior is reinforced. It was funny. They got feedback from their peers that was positive. And now that behavior is likely to happen again.
Yeah. I was kind of laughing when we brought this up in the car ride down here because it's funny too, because I had a conversation with the educator that I ran into when this all happened. But we had a student who wasn't following their schedule and kind of just doing what they wanted, which meant not coming into the classroom when they needed to. And just, it's something that like Sophie and I ignore.
Mhm.
We've learned it's like a planned ignoring. We know we're doing it for there's a purpose for it. And we've
Yeah.
learned that for the most part that works. So it's something we know we'll plan it. Like it'll be one of those, Kate, we're going to, and we always spell it IGNORE.
Yeah.
And hopefully I spelled that right. That'd be awkward. And then we'll just ignore the behavior because we know that with that student, they want us to engage with the behavior.
Yeah. And this is something that has proven to work in the past, which is why we do it and why documentation is important. We know at this point when it's safe, we ignore.
Yeah. And so that's what I was doing. And I even removed myself from the hallway to let the student know, like, I have other things to do. Like, I can't do this.
I can't entertain this right now. Yeah.
And then obviously I have to peek out every once in a while because I can't leave the student there forever. And I peeked out, and one of the other educators in the school was having this whole conversation with them, talking about how you're doing such a good job. And I kind of gave like a look,
do not engage
to the educator. And I was like, and then they're like, okay, well, have a good day. They went back in their classroom. Yeah. And then obviously I kind of chatted with the educator after and just said, like, yes, maybe what they're doing was good in your eyes, but the student knew
it wasn't the task at hand.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. But that behavior was then reinforced, being like, you're right, I am doing such a good job. And it's like, well, okay, but it's not what you're supposed to be doing a good job at right now.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. And we were chatting too, like, we love when people engage with our students, but it's like there's a time and a place sometimes because like they have specific things that they need to be focusing on and specific things that we are reinforcing or not reinforcing. And sometimes those things get accidentally reinforced and you're like, shoot.
Yeah.
And then you kind of have to go back to the drawing board. Yeah. But it's okay. It's like good to have those conversations for sure.
Yeah. I did actually one time years ago work with a student, and it became one of those things where, like, I think the EA working with the student, and it wasn't me, the EA working with the student was saying, like, I'm having a hard time because they're not following through and listening. But when we walk down the hall, everybody's saying hi and how are you and all of these and getting all excited. But she's like, it's just frustrating because the student's not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think what we ended up doing was the EA that was with them had like one of their lanyards, and it either said, like, I think it was either a sad face or a happy face. And whatever way it was, we knew we could engage
or do not engage.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
No, that's a great thing. And those visuals are so helpful for that. I've seen that done before too, where like students are on like a break or whatever, because it's been a rough go, but you've given them that trust to be able to go on a walk and take that break. But you don't want staff out there being like, oh my God, hey, how's your day? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. Like, we appreciate that 100%.
Yeah.
I think that was the first one. We appreciate that. But in the moment, not reinforcing what we want. Like that is supposed to be their Zen time, whatever. Right? So very interesting. It's an interesting thing that, like, you really have to give up that control where you're not going to be able to control everything that's reinforced and everything that's not reinforced. You just have to focus on what you can control, which is what we're going to get into in the next little section here. Yeah. Okay. So how we set up our like token systems is very, very similar to how we set up our visual schedules. We kind of have, and this is not the right way to do it, you need to definitely modify, but we have like a one size fits all model to start. We just make sure that everybody has something to start with, and then that's our baseline. And then we modify it from there. Yeah. So just like all of our students get visual schedules, and then we kind of like find out if they can follow the group schedule or find out if they need like a first then. If you're listening, you're not going to see me doing that tiered thing, but if you're listening, go watch on YouTube. Our token boards are the same way. So we kind of start out with everybody on a level playing field for the most part with how they receive their reinforcement, which we talked about a little bit in the last episode. We have revamped for this year. And we finally hit that point where I think we need to start accommodating a little bit more, but we did trial it.
Yeah. So that was when we were talking about the, their tokens being like nickels and quarters.
And their wallets.
Yeah. And we are still using it, and we are so happy with how it is going for some of our students.
Yeah.
I think it's like, it really is teaching them, and they're buying in at the end of each day. They're using their money to buy in for whatever their reward is at the end of the day. And some of them are just buying in for time with a certain toy.
Yep.
Some of them are buying in for an applesauce. Like everybody has a different thing that's motivating them, but they're taking, our teacher will say, well, you want to buy an applesauce that's 50 cents, and they'll go to their wallet and they'll take out 2 quarters or count it out.
It's very life skills based, which I think is really positive, especially for our program.
Yeah. And then even at the end of the week, we talked about on our Fun Friday, they have a choice between like popcorn, juice, whatever, and then a special treat, I think is.
Yeah. Like we have like a weekly special or whatever, which kind of like gives them some incentive to save their money.
Yeah.
I do want to go back a little bit though, because some people listening may not even know what a token board is or what a reinforcement is. Mm-hmm. So token boards initially are something where it's like a little piece of paper or any way that you want to do it. Mm-hmm. And usually it depends on the student, but there could be 3 blank spaces, 5 blank spaces, 10 blank spaces, and then something that they are working for. And it's very clearly visually laid out.
And it sometimes will say, I am working for.
Yeah. Like I am working for example, I am working for iPad, and they need to get however many visuals that they need, whether that's 3 or 5 or 10 or whatever, in order to get that iPad. Sometimes it takes a full day. Some people do it over a half day. And usually the pictures are something that's preferred. So they love Peppa Pig. They need to get 5 Peppa Pigs in order to get iPad. Mm-hmm. But because of our older age in our class this year and just where they are developmentally and our programs being a life skills program, we've just revamped that into the wallet that we explained in episode 2. Yeah. So if that's something you're interested in learning about, you can go back to episode 2 and listen how we have kind of revamped that.
Yeah,
for sure. But we are getting to the point now where I think we need to modify a little bit, and that's okay.
Yeah. And so I think we spent some time this past week chatting, Sophie, myself, and our teacher, just chatting about who we feel can continue with our wallets and who is successful with them, who we think may need some more time to be successful with them, and who we think maybe we just need to take a step back and go back to maybe just earning 5 tokens of something that interests them. So we kind of did decide we were going to do about another week of wallets to really see where they are and who is grasping it, because we don't expect them to grasp it right away. But if we feel they are on their way to getting it, then we're going to keep it up. Yeah.
And we're still learning it too. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing too, is like we need to give ourselves 3 or 4 weeks to kind of figure out the bumps and like smooth them out and be like, okay, now that we have fully grasped how we want to put this into place, let's see if they're grasping how to cash in and how to earn and how to whatever, because it has to work for them.
Yep.
If they are looking at these nickels and dimes and don't care about them and don't understand the currency and understand why they're earning them, it might be way more exciting for them to earn 3 pictures of Blippi.
Yeah.
And some kids are just reinforced by the photos in itself.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, now there's a picture of Blippi on my desk. How exciting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
we had a student last year who was so successful with earning tokens, but the token was Oreos.
Oreos. Yeah. Right.
And
because they love just a picture of Oreos. And then at the end of the day, after earning all of the photos of Oreos, they would get a little mini Oreo at the end of the day. And that was enough to get them through the day. And that was totally fine.
So we have that student with the quarters and nickels now, but that student is one of the ones that we're thinking maybe we will
because
go
that's
back.
Just more reinforcing for them. And at the end of the day, we can put in place as much as we want, life skills based and whatever, but if that's not what they're buying into currently, not worth it, because we really need to utilize those reinforcements to focus on those target behaviors or target goals. And one of the things that's really important is to discuss whether they can do that delayed gratification piece or whether they need an immediate reward.
Yeah.
There are some students that just cannot withstand like 5 photos and then something. Like that's a long time for them to go unrewarded because they haven't quite put that piece together that 5 of these means I'm going to get 1 of these.
Yeah.
So then we do that whole immediate reward thing.
Yeah. And that was something that we went through this week where we had a student waiting for their reward and it just wasn't working the way we wanted it to.
Yeah.
So again, we met as a team. That's one thing I love about our team is we so often will be like, hey, let's chat together. This isn't working.
Yeah.
How do we all feel about this?
That reflection piece is so important.
Yeah.
And I feel like we do a good job of being like, at the end of the day, okay, how are we feeling with this? Because I'm feeling this way. Are you feeling similar? And I just feel like it works out really nicely. And then we've really been on the same page. And if we're not on the same page, we have those critical conversations like, okay, well, this is how I'm seeing it. How are you seeing it? How can we meet in the middle to make it functional for all of us? Which I think is great.
Yeah. So just for an example, though, this one student was working for a mini Oreo and they would have earned 2 in a day.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Was how it was working. But we just found we needed something more immediate. So now they work for, how we had it is their nickels and quarters. So a quarter would earn them, sorry, I'm chewing on a Halls and I'm trying not to make noise
still
while
recovering.
I'm chewing on this Halls. But yeah, so when they would get their quarter, enough nickels to get a quarter, they would get an Oreo. But we needed something throughout. To get them to that Oreo. It was
too long of a wait. And we understand that. Like, and sometimes even there's some days where you just need, we try to be as consistent as possible, but there are some days where you just need a little extra. There are some days we need a second tea. We need a second coffee. Kids are the same. It's a rough day. They needed something to get them through that chunk of time.
Yeah. So the student is also motivated by goldfish. So
not as highly preferred though, which is important.
Yeah. So we kind of discussed as a team and said, what if we, for every nickel, they get 1 or 2 goldfish. And then when they get to 5 nickels and they trade in for their quarter, they get their Oreo. So that way they're earning what? Maybe 10 goldfish throughout the day.
Yeah. Which is like not even a cup of goldfish and 2 mini Oreos.
2 mini Oreos.
Yeah. Which is enough to motivate them. And like really, it has to be something they're motivated by. And we're going to talk about this later during our Q&A. But it has to be something they're going to buy into. So if this student doesn't have many specific interests and food is an interest, we're going to chat about it later, but it's definitely something that there's opinions both ways for sure. So that's when we can talk about individualizing systems. Like we really individualize systems and we are open to like, cause there are kids that realize that there's other students that are earning quicker than them or different than them. And that's where we talk about that equity piece. Equality and equity are so different. Like equality, everybody would be doing the exact same thing, earning the exact same thing, but every student is not exactly the same. So we need to modify and explain that in order for them to be successful, this is their plan. In order for you to be successful, this is your plan. And we have those conversations with the kids because that is life. Everybody is different. Everybody needs their own specific set of tools in order to be successful. And I think that's a very important lesson for them to grasp from the get-go.
Yeah. And I think this really kind of came to a head last year for us, was the first time that we really needed a ton of different reward systems.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Right?
Yeah. And I think, to be honest, I've worked in quite a few classrooms, but I had never seen, I don't think, anybody put in that many reward systems for one student.
Yes.
And it didn't mean the student was getting tons and tons of rewards. It meant that they had token boards to get them to all of their rewards or to their final reward.
Many target goals that they needed to work on. Just to get them through the day. Like it wasn't a significant amount of rewards more than the other kids. The student wasn't being like significantly rewarded more. No.
They just had more token boards.
They just had more token boards and more check-ins almost, right? Like different points in the day that we could check in. So that's different token boards for different things. Like we currently have a system, and honestly, for those that watch on YouTube, there might come a time where we will show you some of these things that we have made because I think they're super helpful. And this was something that I know I really needed to wrap my head around because, you just have that system where it's like the one token board and blah, 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 and whatever. And if you have a good day, whatever that means, that's really hard for kids to interpret a good day. There are so many different components that make up a good day, right?
And how do we get there? Like it's such a long day.
So breaking down those goals, like we currently have a system where one token board is for safety, general safety, general safe hands. And they need to earn 3 little tokens in order to get a big token for their big board. And then there's the second one that is for independence because we are really preaching that independence piece as they head to high school and they need to earn a few tokens on there in order to get their big token for their big board. And then it's just breaking down for them how you're earning each individual token.
And showing that you can receive all of your tokens here,
Yeah.
but miss some here. And then it doesn't make them feel like they've failed.
No.
You know?
Yeah. We can say, look how safe you were today. Maybe we didn't get all of our work done, but look how safe you were, and saving that space. So for your ultimate goal. So our ultimate goal for this one specific student is just general safety. So we have a spot on their big token board at the end to give us as a reminder as educators to check in with all the staff to make sure that this student was safe before we give them their reward.
Yeah.
It literally says, was I safe?
Yep.
On the last little space there. So we can check in and go, okay, were they safe? Were they safe with you? Were they safe with me? Perfect. You can have your last token because there was some discrepancies.
Yeah. I think with this specific student, we wanted to make sure that they were still rewarded because if we're being completely transparent, most days were not safe.
Right.
And we didn't want that to mean that the student never, ever received any kind of reward.
And then they have that negative attachment and those negative feelings towards school. And that's not what we wanted. So how could we phrase this in a way, really break down the individual goals and how they can earn? Because we want to reward these kids. We want to give them that feeling of you are successful. So if we can find one area that they're successful in, which right now has been the independence piece and running jobs and doing that, we will reward the heck out of you for that.
Yeah. And then the one thing with, again, the student would be their highly, highly preferred piece requires safety.
So
they will still get other rewards throughout the day, like lip gloss or high chews.
Yeah, like a little fruit chew or something, right?
So there are little rewards that they can get throughout the day, but their highly preferred at the end of the day requires a full day of safe.
Yeah, so you have to think of yourself too. Like, what are you highly motivated by, right? Like, we each have something that we enjoy doing. We have a few things we enjoy doing, but you might have a favorite. Like, I enjoy crocheting. I enjoy reading a good book, but I really enjoy a skinny vanilla latte from Starbucks. So if my ultimate goal was a skinny vanilla latte from Starbucks, I would have to be safe in order to get that. I can crochet and read all day, but I know if I want that big reward at the end of the day, I have to be safe. Right? And so identifying what kids want to work for and where it lies on their level of reinforcement. Like they may, oh, great, they love goldfish, but we just found out they love granola bars. Right? Or they love doing phonics games on the iPad. So you have to figure out what's highest preferred and what, can get you through the day through that middle gray area.
And not all of our kids require this. And that's that equity piece that Sophie was talking about. Not all of our kids require these little things, but the ones that do, we make sure they have a way of being successful.
Yeah. We want them all to leave at the end of the day feeling successful. And if they weren't, we have those conversations at the end of the day. At the end of the day. And we'll discuss that later in our Q&A as well. One thing I want to touch on is the language and how we talk to our kids, because there is a lot of weight on verbal praise. And there are some kids that will eat that up and they don't even need that tangible item or that edible item. Tangible meaning like an iPad or a sensory toy or something that they can hold in their hands, and edible obviously being, a goldfish or like a mini Oreo. There are some kids that they just want to hear that they're doing a good job. And we've talked a lot. There was a TikTok creator, and I don't know if you know who it is, you can tag her, but I watched her video explaining she has reworded the way that she talks to students. And she says, you should be so proud of yourself because you want to make yourself proud, and working to make other people proud is great. But then it kind of like puts in that people pleaser mentality, right? And so I know I have changed my language with the kids a lot. Like, you should be so proud of yourself. Are you proud of yourself? I'm proud of you, but you should feel proud of yourself.
And we have kids who will come in and be like, are you proud of me?
Yes, I love that.
And after hearing, I think Sophie probably sent it to me because we do a lot of that. And after kind of hearing that, it's like, yes, I am so proud of you. But even more importantly, aren't you proud of yourself?
Doesn't that feel good? Like, don't you feel that you did such a good thing? And that makes me so happy. And it's something that like, I literally heard that like maybe a year or two ago, and it's completely changed the way. And I catch myself now. Like, I'm so you should be so proud of
Yeah.
yourself. And I really think that it has changed the way that they look at how they are successful too.
Yeah.
So just something to try. Just throw it out there and just see if you see any changes or response to that for sure.
Mhm.
Okay, so before we get into our Q&A, there's a couple last minute things that I feel like you should consider when you're putting reinforcement things into play. One of them is consistency between staff and the importance of conversations about reinforcement. Because even if you're all on the same page about the reinforcement that the student is receiving, you should also be clear about the reinforcement length of time or the amount given, because there is definitely times where a student has earned iPad and, one staff person has been agreeing on 5 minutes and another staff person has been agreeing on 10 minutes. Or when it comes to edible reinforcements, I'm giving 1 mini Oreo and Jordan's giving 2 or 3 mini Oreos. And then we know why Jordan is the preferred staff with that student.
Okay, that didn't happen. Okay.
No, it's just consistency 100%. Oh my gosh, you haven't said 100% once today and I've said it twice.
I'm sorry. I'll do better.
She's really checking herself.
And when I said it didn't happen, it actually did happen last year. There was a funny story because Sophie and I we were giving mini Oreos, and I think we were giving 3 mini Oreos. At the
end of the day.
Yeah, they were working the whole day and receiving 3 mini Oreos at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And there was another staff in the room who was getting the rewards for the kids as we were maybe you were on a break. One of us was on a break. Maybe there was 2 of us in there. So one was finding out what the kids wanted. One staff was going to get everything. And we were like, okay, 3 Oreos. And this kid was loving life. And we didn't know what was going on.
The giggles, like so happy.
Yeah.
And we were like, yeah, you earned it. Good job.
Yeah. Come to find out, he was given 3 giant, like the big Oreos.
Like full-size Oreos.
Yeah. So he's probably like, whoa.
I did a great job.
This is
today.
wonderful. I never get this.
Yes, right?
So that kind of did happen last year.
Yes, but just the consistency in the conversations, like you have to literally break it down and be like, this student is working for this amount of time or this amount or whatever. That piece is so important. I still find myself doing it now. I'm like, did you do 1 goldfish or 2 goldfish?
Yeah.
Like you just want to make sure that it's consistent, because it also like a little bit of favoritism towards the staff. They're like, oh, they're really loving you today. Well, it's because
and then they may get really mad if like I give 3 one day and Sophie goes to give them 1 the next day.
It's like it sets them off. They're like, what do you mean? I work so hard for this, right? Yeah. So setting those like guidelines prior is definitely the easiest way to go.
And I do want to rewind again. This is going to be kind of out of order.
This is our podcast, girl. We can do whatever we want.
But I thought about it after we had kind of finished talking about it. And I do think it's such an important thing.
Yeah.
And it came up this week. So I just want to touch back on it. And it comes to that like reinforcement thing where we have a student like we've been talking about who has multiple different token boards and ways of achieving things, who is unsafe most.
It's the main goal.
Days.
It's the main goal right now is safety, for sure.
And just this week, and I'm pointing this out because I think this is kind of gives a clear idea on why we still want to reward them. Where the student was definitely showing signs that they weren't regulated. And so, like I said before, we usually use planned ignoring when these behaviors begin. Because when we feed into it, we definitely...
You see an increase.
Yeah, the behavior increases. So there was a time this week where these behaviors did start to show, and Sophie and I kind of just look at each other now and we kind of know, okay, this is where we're going to start ignoring. And we will address it usually once or twice before we start ignoring it.
Mm-hmm.
But if we find it's getting higher,
and these behaviors are only ignored when the scenario is still safe.
Yeah. So that's what we did. And the behavior continued for a little while until the student then looked at us and said, I need a break. And Sophie and I both looked at each other and said,
have at her.
Go for it. Sorry. So the student took a break, and maybe 1 or 2 minutes later, I had looked over and the student was crying.
Mm-hmm.
And Sophie at this time was leading our circle, so she wasn't able to step away. I stepped away and had a little chat with a student who wasn't able to verbally express what was going on in that moment, but I was able to ask questions and get like a no or a yes. And one of my questions were, are you upset that you weren't able to make it through circle?
Yeah.
And the response was a yes, with full looking at me in my eyes, tears, was a yes. And I sat and explained to the student that we all have bad days, bad times in our days. We all have these hard times where we're not able to be successful, and it happens to all of us. And what she should be proud of, and what we are proud of, is that she was able to recognize that she was not able to be a part of what we were doing at that moment, and was able to recognize that they needed space, and to take time to be safe. And to both of us, that is so worth rewarding.
Absolutely.
More so in that moment than actually being present for circle.
That was such a mature decision to make, that I cannot functionally be safe in this environment right now. I'm going to remove myself. And that's why we have reinforcements within our sensory room, because when we have students that cannot make that independent choice, that I need to remove myself before I do something, that is an unexpected behavior, we place things in that sensory room to entice them to go in and spend time in there. So there isn't that negative connotation with the sensory room that it's somewhere where you go when you're in the red zone and when you're angry. No, it's somewhere you go before you get to that point, and bring yourself down. And to make that decision independently is amazing. Like something we've worked towards for so long. So they were not only reinforced for going in there because they have their little, whether it's a preferred toy that sits in there, or like a lip gloss, or like something that, they really enjoy. They also are going to get that token for safety. And we can still reward the heck out of them for making that safe choice if that is their goal.
And something else I just want to touch on that quickly is that Sophie and I also, especially with specific students, find it important for both of us to be able to have these moments after a behavior has taken place, where we can sit and debrief. So yes, I was the one that went and chatted with the student originally, but because we both played a part in that ignoring piece, there is that piece where we both want to be able to go and sit with the student and debrief with them after it's happened.
We want to mend that situation. And we usually both do it individually and then together. Especially if like together our presence is preferred, which we know for some students it is. So you had your time where you were like, you should be so proud of yourself. Thank you for making that decision. Have that critical conversation. And then Jordan will swap with me. I'll go in and say, hey, like this is how I felt in this moment. And this is how I could see you were feeling. And I'm so proud of the way that you handled that and whatever. And then together we will reinforce them with, that was a safe choice. Here is your reward for making that safe decision. And that way I feel like too, the student feels connected to both of us and feels supported and understood and safe. And that is like our ultimate goal in the whole situation. So different reinforcements for different things, different token boards for different things, different reinforcement boards for different students. There is a lot of individualizing that goes into creating these systems. And if you're in a mainstream class, you may consider having some sort of classroom reinforcement system. Like we've heard of like Class Dojo and things like that. But there are students that need something that's more individualized, and that's that equity piece. And you can explain that to your other students that this is what this student needs to be successful. This is what you need to be successful. Because it's okay that not everybody needs the same thing. Okay, so we have 2 questions today, and they're both very relevant to what we were talking about. And I'm so excited to answer these because I feel like we have really good input on both of them. So first question, and we keep these anonymous unless you tell us otherwise that you would like to be chatted about, but this is from 2 different educators. And the first one is, what are your thoughts on removing a token that was already earned if a child misbehaves? Air quotes, misbehaves. How do I say that? No, literally no. Like, do not remove that token. There is like, I feel like years ago, it was this thing where it was like, I'm going to like wipe off a point that you already earned for like your class like reinforcement system, or I'm going to rip off your Peppa Pig because you didn't do, or you're being bad or whatever. Like that is so outdated and it's so,
no.
Personally, in my opinion, it's wrong.
Yeah. Oh, the token is there because they did something to earn it.
They earned it.
It's almost like that same thing of like, when you tell a child something like, oh, you're gonna, you know, that example of like kids, you tell your kids you're gonna turn the car around.
Yes.
I don't know how that goes together. Actually, now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm not sure it does. But
it's like a threat that you can't follow through or whatever. But
yeah, it's something about that, like follow through. But like when a child earns, one of the students that you work with earns something for something that they have done, they earned it. It's there now. Like it's theirs. They earned it.
To me, it breaks that trust.
Yeah.
Like you have given them something. You've said, what a wonderful job you did doing this. And then 10 minutes later, turning around and going, taking it off. They're always going to feel like the rug is being pulled out from under them because they never know at what point they're going to lose what they've already earned.
Yeah.
To me, it should always be positive and looking forward. It's when you start to see those behaviors that you feel like you should like remove a token, which do not do that. You need to sit down and have that conversation and say, you have had an awesome morning so far. Look at all these positive things you've done. You've earned 3 tokens. You only need 2 more in order to get that reward. How can I support you and get you regulated so we can work together to get you those last 2 tokens?
Especially if it's not like, like there really shouldn't, unless it's a huge thing in the day, there really shouldn't be a reason they're not earning, because there should be so many opportunities for kids to earn their reward by the end of the day, that one little mishap shouldn't
ruin their day.
No.
Yeah.
We all have moments in our day that are just rough.
Yeah.
So how is that any different? And like, why, if they've had such a good day but had one little rough patch, why not talk to them to figure out how they can just continue on that good piece and not miss out because they had one little slip up, you know?
That's a life skill to be able to go reflect and think, okay, you know, I've done so much so far. I'm having a bit of a rough go right now. Check in with myself. I need to, you know, do this in order to earn. Yeah. And also just reiterating the guidelines around that token. So when you start to see that behavior that is not what you want to see, you can state, just a reminder, in order to earn those tokens, we need to have listening ears, we need to have gentle hands, we need to whatever, just to reinforce that this is what you need to do in order to get that reward. Yeah. Just give them that reminder. You don't need to go rip their token off aggressively. You don't need to wipe their name off the board or whatever. You need to just give them that reminder that you still have a chance to turn this around.
Yeah. And if the behavior was really, really significant and it's not something, which we ran into a little bit of a thing.
Yeah.
With a couple of our students where they, this year, their hands-on has been more significant and prominent in their day. Yeah. And we didn't want them to feel, especially if like by the end of the day, they've had a fairly good day at earning like their independent here and there or whatever task they need, but they've had hands-on a lot. Yeah. Then it's kind of like, how do I then reward the student with an Oreo right after I'm bleeding from something?
And that's where it kind of comes into play, like possibly putting in that little goal piece at that last token spot that we had mentioned before, like the was I safe? Because then you can go through and say, this one was for your independent task. This one is for participating at circle time. This one is for doing this, but was I safe today? And that conversation doesn't come in the middle of the day, so their day is ruined. Yeah. You don't say at lunchtime, well, you pinched me, so now you're not getting your reward today. Yeah. It just sets them up for failure. Yeah. So you have that check-in piece at the end of the day and go through each thing and then say, you know what? We did not have safe hands today. So unfortunately, I can't give you this. But for tomorrow, look at all these awesome things that you did. And the one thing we need to do tomorrow is have safe hands.
Yeah. And even with our safe hands component, like we have little mini token boards for a couple of our kids that have 3 sad faces. So it's not like we give them one chance to not.
It's always a conversation. Yeah. It's always surrounded by an abundance of visuals. Yeah. Everything every guideline and boundary we put in place for them to earn is clearly identified, clearly labeled, clearly has visuals to show them exactly what they need to do to earn.
Yeah.
And we are constantly looking for ways for them to be successful.
Yeah.
We are never looking at the day going, well, you know, have a negative outlook on it and be like, it's been a rough week, so I don't want them to earn their quarter today.
Yeah.
That's never the goal.
No.
The goal is always for them to feel safe and successful at school. So that is always where we're looking.
Yeah.
So do not remove that token. We've given you a couple different, you know, ways that you could like address that situation. And I know this educator and I know that she would not remove the token or likely not. But this is just a reminder for anybody who maybe hasn't used a token board before or a reinforcement system that there are ways to get around removing their name, because do not take away something that they've earned, right? That'd be like us getting a bonus and then them taking it back out of our bank account or something. If you have worked that time, you earn that money or you earn that reinforcement. Our next question, this one, it can be controversial for sure. Mm-hmm. Our next question is, what are your thoughts on food as reinforcement? Do you have thoughts? I have thoughts.
My thoughts are that we always look for things that motivate our kids that are highly preferred. And to me, if we're not giving them a bag of Skittles every time they do a task successfully, and this is what motivates them. Like I said, we have kids working for Goldfish, and like, do I see anything wrong with that? Absolutely not. Do I think a parent obviously needs to have input and be able to weigh in on that? Yes.
Absolutely.
But personally, no, I don't. I think food is fine as a reinforcement as long as it's
as long as we're not like, yep, you can have a can of Coke every time that you do your work. That's not what it looks like. It obviously has to be functional, has to be affordable because, you know, somebody pays for these things, right?
And obviously we need to look at their health.
And it needs to be something that is healthy or parent approved or whatever. But if I'm being honest, I am motivated by food as an adult. And I've made that decision that like, I'm motivated by coffee or by food. And there's a lot of times that I will do a first then in my own head. First, I'm going to get my work done. Then I'm going to go to Starbucks and get a coffee. And that's a decision that I have made as an adult for myself, that is something that I like to work for. And I think that's okay.
Yeah.
And not every kid is going to be, I would never throw it down these kids' throats and be like, everybody's working for Oreos today. No. Like, that's not what it is. It's so individualized that if that student wants to work for a Welch's fruit gummy versus going on the iPad for 5 minutes, I am okay with that.
Yeah.
It's what they buy into.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to reach specific goals if you don't have specific reinforcers.
Yeah.
I don't think that most kids are going to be motivated by, well, as soon as you get your work done, you can go get your library book out and read. Yeah. Like, that's not what they're interested in doing.
And I think this also plays into that equity piece as well, because I know there will be some opinions maybe forming where maybe in a mainstream classroom, food wouldn't be given for completing your work.
Yeah.
But we're talking about equity here, and that may not be something that makes those kids successful, but the ones that we're working with or a specific child will be successful using that.
Yeah. It's important that our students have input on what they are working for. It's important that their parents have input on what they're working for. Yeah. And we do our darn best to respect everybody's input that goes into it. And at the end of the day, we do what's best for the child, what's best for their classroom situation, their family situation, and we try and come up with a middle ground that is successful for us, successful for them, and sustainable at the end of the day. Mic drop. Those are two really good questions though. Yeah. And we really appreciate all questions that come in. If you haven't submitted one, you can go into the link tree in the link in our bio at Inspired by Chaos Pod. There's a little form there, a Google form. You can fill it out. You can put in topic suggestions for episodes. We have a couple good ones coming up. You can put in Q&As for anything you want. You can make fun of us. You can just engage with us in any way, and we will literally take anything. So go to the link in our bio and fill that out and send us some questions. We have come to the end of episode 3, sadly. Again, if you haven't listened to episode 1 and 2, go back and have a listen on Spotify or on YouTube for our conclusion. It kind of ties into my guided journal, which I'm going to plug again. You can find that also at the link in my bio, which I will plug in a minute. We are going to do something that made us laugh and something that made us smile this week. Jordan, tell me something that made you laugh this week.
I think we had a few of these, but it was funny because they came at the end of the week, and I think they were just us being so exhausted.
We were delirious. Yeah. We were delirious by the end of the week.
So I think for me, one of the funniest times of the whole week was I looked over at one point, and this isn't going to sound funny, I feel like, when I say it, but
it's just real life.
Sophie had been pulled by her hair, but obviously not aggressively. But the way that she was, and I kind of just looked over and was confused because she wasn't making a sound. I'm pretty sure she was laughing.
Yeah.
But then obviously I went over and I was like, oh no, like we don't pull hair. And we got her out of that. And then Sophie went to have a conversation with a student to try and just, chat about what had happened. And I just thought it was hilarious because, those things where it's like someone talks or tries to get a word in, but someone keeps talking. And then every time I open my mouth, every time there's silence, Sophie would try and talk again. And then the student would talk over her, and then it would go silent, and Sophie would try and talk.
I did give up. And to preface this, it was like me sitting facing Jordan, and the student was facing me in between. So I can see Jordan's face through the entire time I'm trying to have this like crucial conversation just about like safety and whatever. And every time I opened my mouth, the student was like, every time I opened my mouth. And I was like, you know what? It's Friday. Just move along. But I could see Jordan's face. It was so hard to just keep a straight face.
Yeah. And I think I had to turn around because I was literally crying because Sophie was trying so hard.
I was trying to be so serious. And then I was like, you know what? It's Friday afternoon.
Go.
I just, as you were. I don't want to. Yeah.
It was good. That was a good laugh.
Oh, yeah. So something that made me laugh this week. This was so weird. We barely even got a lunch this day. It was just like a bit of a blur. And there were some kids yelling out in the hallway. I don't know if Jordan was trying to like match their energy or what happened, but it was just Jordan and I in the room. The lights are off. It's like so calm and quiet in there. We have sensory music on. And then she just screams something out of nowhere.
You know what I was thinking?
Yeah. She was trying to say like, you know what I was thinking about? But it was like, you know what I was thinking? And I was like... And I looked at her and I was like, who are you talking to?
Like she literally jumped.
I was like, who are you talking to? And she was like, you. And I was like, volume control.
Yeah. But it was funny because I looked over at Sophie. I'm like, I don't know why that just happened because I yelled it so loud.
It was so loud. It was bizarre. But I honestly feel like by Friday afternoon, we were both checked out. And then we were both just like tearing up, laughing. We had 2 minutes until the kids were coming back inside. We were like, we got to wrap this week up. Like, it's too much. It's too much.
Yeah, it was bad. I still like it. Literally, I looked over and I was like, you know what I was thinking?
I was like, are you speaking with me? Who are you talking to? Somebody across the street? It was so loud.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Do you have anything that made you smile this week? I was a bit of a grump this week. I'm going to be honest.
I know. I think we both were kind of grumpy.
I feel like there's something about like week 3 routine where it's like you're finally realizing that you got to wake up early every day. And like, I don't know.
What's funny about that though is that I think every episode we've said there's something about week
there's
one.
Something about, there's something about week 57. But there's not even 57 weeks in a year.
Oh, goodness. Anyways, something that made me smile.
Coming here makes us smile.
Yeah, maybe this is it. Maybe this is...
I said something that makes me smile is my mom watches this on YouTube. Hi, Mom. She watches this on YouTube all the time and sends me photos watching it with her tea.
So
She'll
cute.
like the shout out, I'm sure. It's very sweet. I do enjoy it.
So cute.
As if she doesn't hear me talk enough. For all of our friends and family who tune into this, thank you.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not on the phone or on FaceTime with you or sending you voice notes or texting you, you're watching this, which means a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of love.
Yes, it definitely is.
Anywho.
100%.
100%.
You're welcome.
I'm delirious. I've got to go home. Like, I have so much to do. Okay, so Jordan, where can we find you on Instagram?
Jordan find at Jordan Fine Photography
Mm-hmm.
or at Inspired by Studios, which
Ooh.
on that note,
Yes.
this, although beautiful,
Yeah.
is the last time we will be recording in this space.
Yes, because we are going to have a podcast studio.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, you guys are going to be along for the ride. I
Mhm.
can't wait. I feel like our next episode is going to have such a cool vibe to it because you are literally coming from scratch
Yeah.
with us.
Yeah.
From scratch to success, like the last episode.
Yeah.
Plug.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Where can we find you?
Hi. You can find me at Inclusive Inspirations on Instagram. That is my special education blog. My guided journal for educators is on there. Also, if you haven't entered our giveaway,
Enter it.
what are you doing?
Will it be closed?
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
Nope. I don't think so.
Enter.
You can find me there, or you can find us at Inspired by Chaos Pod. That's where you can enter. That's where you can answer our Q&As. That's where you will see us do fun things and see all of the funny clips and stuff from our podcast.
And we were asked for a little bit of a video, pictures, whatever, of our classroom setup.
Working on it.
That's something we aim to do soon.
Yes. We'll add it to the list. We have a long list.
Yeah.
Anywho, thanks for joining us again. This has been episode 3, The Power of Praise, and we will see you on our next episode. Bye, y'all.
Bye.